Good morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this fantastic Friday. I'm recording this on Thursday, so I'm assuming that Friday is going to be a fantastic day. And I know this weekend is going to be a fantastic weekend because Sunday morning we're going to meet at 8:45 for Bible study, 10 a.m. for worship, and then we start our small group Sunday evening at 4. Would love for you to be a part of every bit of that. So come and join us for that if you would. But right now we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And we're picking up in verse 30. We've been talking about the Lord's Supper. Yesterday we talked about how these Corinthian Christians were participating in it in an unworthy manner because they were holding prejudice and bitterness and anger in their hearts when they participated, looking down on the slaves, not allowing them to eat prior to the observance of the Lord's Supper, causing discord and disunity. And Paul says in verse 30, he says, "For this reason many are weak and sick among you, and many sleep." And I mentioned yesterday that sleep is a euphemism for dead. They died because God judged them. This is what he says. Look at verse 31. He says, "For if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. But when we are judged, we are chastened by the Lord, that we may not be condemned with the world." You know what he's talking about? If we would look inward and say, "Hey, I'm wrong. I'm wrong in this. I'm harboring bitterness and anger in my heart. And I am so sorry for that, God. Please forgive me, cleanse me of this sin, and help me to make amends with those that I have this prejudice toward, this bitterness toward, this anger toward. And Lord, just heal that relationship." He says, if we would be willing to do that and judge ourselves, then we would not be judged. But if we force God to judge us, to discipline us, and we refuse to respond to that discipline, then that chastisement gets worse. And he says, understand, if we allow God, or we put God in the point of judging us for this, then we will be chastened. And he does that so that we may not be condemned by the world. Here's what he's saying. When he chastens us, we respond to him. When we respond to him, we get right with him, and the world looks and says, man, I need that. I need something that would help me to overcome my prejudice, my bitterness, my anger. Look at this person. They're completely different. God has changed them. Something has happened, and I want to hear more about that. But if we refuse and God judges us, the world looks and says, they're no different than I am. And they condemn us because we're hypocrites. We preach a good game, talk a good game, and then we don't do what we talk about. That's what he's talking about here. Keep in mind that on these nights when they would have these meals, they called them love feasts, agape feast. And agape means self-sacrificial kind of love. And we're saying, hey, we love each other. But then when we participate in this unworthy manner, then we are hypocritically claiming to love our brothers while in reality we're hating them and causing discord and disunity. So here's how Paul concludes this. He says, "Therefore, my brethren, when you come together to eat, wait for one another." In other words, bring the food, let everybody get there, and everybody participate together. That's the way to solve this problem. Very simple, and all of a sudden you're not hurting anybody by doing that. Then he says, "But if anyone is hungry, let him eat at home, lest you come together for judgment." Man, pretty straightforward, isn't it? He says, don't let these practices, these actions that you're taking, cause harm first to the body of Christ, second to you, because when we do, we face the wrath of God. Now look, I know this is not a popular teaching, and I know that there are people who disagree with what I'm talking about, but understand, our God is a jealous God. He is jealous for his church. He is jealous for his son's bride, which is the church, and he's going to do everything that is necessary to protect his church. Everything. Think about that. Hope to see you Sunday. Be blessed, and know I wouldn't share this unless I love you. See you Sunday.